handler om arven, hvor forfædres ære, de ofre, der smede vores land. Det handler om Valhalla, krigene kæmpet, kysterne raided. Det handler om den lidenskab og det engagement, vi dedikerer hver dag. Og det handler om blodet, sveden, tårne for arven i vores store nation.
Welcome back to the LCS Spring Split and our final game of the week between Schalke 04 and G2 Esports. Last time these two teams met, the two-star mid laners Nukeduck and Perkz had a very big showdown, with G2 and Perkz coming out on top in the end. But in the game itself, the Zoe versus LeBlanc matchup was fantastic.
It was hype. It was so fun to watch these two veteran mid laners just strut their stuff. They've been demonstrating how mechanically proficient they are very early on into the split, and this was just a prime example of what happens when two titans can clash.
Yeah, Nukeduck put the team on his back, but it wasn't enough. G2 won that game, and since this matchup in week 4, a lot has changed for both teams. Let's start with Nukeduck and with Schalke. Schalke has had their share of struggles, but yesterday they had a very good win over Giants Freeze, and it looked like they're on a good path. But then every time we see that, the second day they can't follow it up. So we need to see some consistency and see more of this today.
Yes, and when you talk about consistency, I'm looking at upset. Because, you know, this player, when he delivers, he delivers. He plays perfectly when he does play well. But then he has times where he just doesn't play well and loses games in team fights. So we have to see more consistency out of him. And I believe we are seeing it because lately he's been stepping up big time and he hasn't been performing so badly as in the first few weeks. It feels like his jitters are finally getting rid.
You know, you say that, but we made these exact same comments back in week 6, and we were like, are we seeing that consistency from him? And then it's on to week 8 that we see the return. So Upset, I think that we're both in agreement that if you invest resources into Upset, he's definitely a superstar AD carry. But until that happens, if he slightly falls behind, that's where things start to crumble, and Schalke don't look like themselves.
And that is where we need all the other members on Schalke to step up as well. They need to come together. They need to get things together if they want to get to playoffs. And they have a big chance to go 2-0 today after what we saw, at least from G2 Esports yesterday. Not just yesterday. G2, the reigning champions, have now lost 3 out of their last 4 games, and they're not really looking like champions at this point in time. Is this a decline that we should be worried about for G2 being so close to playoffs?
100%. 100%. I feel like G2, they're panicking right now because they haven't found a playstyle that works for them. You know, they've been trying to play early game. They've been trying to play late game. None of that works. And if you're G2, the team that is the king, they were the kings, and then you are playing and you're lost at week 8, there's a big problem.
However, we get a lot of views of Vander and Upset, but it is G2 that I do want to hang out for another second because they are fighting for that quarterfinal bye. They are fighting for that playoff contention, which they will most likely lock in, but it would be really good for them if they manage to surpass the quarterfinals.
That's what G2 is hoping for. Like, they have a bit of a legacy here in Europe. For those that may not know, G2 is our 4-time consecutive EU LCS champion. And when it came into playoffs, we would often look at the bottom lane of Sven and Mythy. It was always the consistent bottom lane. You had a strong mid laner in Perkz. Then everyone's like, don't worry about it, guys. They're going to do it again. But those guys have gone. And you look at this new roster, and yes, Perkz is still consistent, but Jankos, we talked about him yesterday, he's a guy that might not do well when that sort of pressure is on him. Hyanan and Wadid, they're not the same level of consistency that they have been in the past. So I'm looking at this G2, and I'm hoping that today and next week, they can bring it back together and challenge a good win over Schalke.
Quick prediction before we go then, Schalke or G2, who does it today?
Schalke for me.
Schalke?
I'm going G2.
One-time Schalke, one-time G2. The stakes are incredibly high for both of these squads, so let's head over to Dracos and Officio and get into the action.
Thank you very much, Shocks. I'm excited to see this one, Officio. There's a lot of questions, and of course, with all of our matches this week, standings are incredibly important. But with G2 going down, with Schalke coming up, do we see the upset?
He's on stage right now.
Great, he's on Schalke. They're on the blue side. That worked out much better than I thought it would, and was terrible. All right, Schalke lineup. One that we all know, one that many love. And is Upset the man to watch in this game, Officio?
Based on yesterday, I would say yes. I think Nukeduck against Perkz will always be a lane to watch, and kind of where I can still see G2 get a big advantage if they can play around Perks, because Nukdog the last few weeks not been the same big carry we saw in the start of the split when we tried to make the Year of Nukdog storyline stick.
Yo, and let's be honest, the pinnacle of the Year of Nukdog storyline was when he was going up against G2, when he played that LeBlanc. Ultimately lost the game in the end, and that was because Perks' Zoe was just so clean in those last few moments. You see him there, sole remaining member of the OG lineup.
But listen, there's a G2 lineup who's tried early game, failed because they couldn't close out games. Then they tried late game, failed because, well, they fell too far behind. And while we say, yeah, they lost the last 3 out of 4 games, I'm not going to be honest here, they should have lost all 4 of the games. Because Giants were so far ahead against them when it was this early game Giants come versus the late game of G2. So after that, and after Jankos talked to us on the EU4 podcast, they were like, yeah, that doesn't work for us, but let's go back to more early game. So that's what they did yesterday.
And what happened?
What happened? They got really far ahead, but then took a really bad fight, lost it again. So I want to see what kind of style do they play, because last time when they lost with this kind of early game draft, because they couldn't finish the game, they scrapped it and only played for late game. Will that be the same today for G2, or will they try early game again?
And I want to see if Schalke is going to try the same setup, more scaling options, or if they're going to go for more early game here. Because you're right, with G2, we don't even know what the right choice is for the team because they messed up both the late game and the early game. We want to see them come back, find some structure, find some consistency, and it's kind of a similar story for Schalke.
For sure, but it's important for G2 that Vitality lost earlier today. They got stumped. That means now if G2 win, they tie with Splice in second place, and that's then the fight for that second place for now.
And it's important because if they finish with the same record, they're 1-1 in the head-to-head. They will force a tiebreaker to Fischio.
Now, if you are Schalke, after yesterday's game where the late game or the team fighting worked for you, Upset had a great game, I think you could go towards that style again. I actually asked for more like aggressive picks for solo laners, more creativity. But if they've only been practicing this style for so long, then maybe that is the only thing they can play, and then they have to go for it. And I think Tristana is one of those picks that can give you fine early game, but also late game insurance, which is necessary.
Powerful pick in Europe for sure. Back in the hands of Upset. Played this the last time these two teams went toe-to-toe.
Also important to note that G2, they don't play Zyra Khan, clearly. It's not been picked once by them all split long, so it is going to be Varus picked by Janinen. It's a good item spike, AD carry, and it's a fine laning phase for him, but it's a tough champion to carry on. And that's where, again, it then shifts all the focus on Perks and Wonder to be the big carries.
And this is interesting. Schalke going back to putting Pride on the Kazakhs, this really did not work out for them in the early weeks. Swapping the Sejuani was one of the better options. G2 have now taken that away. As you said, Hjarnan gets the Varus, a very comfortable pick to push lane. And Fischio, this tells me that it's not about the bot lane for G2, kind of as expected. They're looking to put the onus to carry somewhere else.
It's never been about the bot lane with this lineup from G2 Esports. And that's such a shift from when they had Sven and Mithy, and they could always rely on the late game of those two guys. Azir, blind. Fun fact, a lot of coaches like to say, oh, this is a great time to pick Azir. And they say that every game because, yeah, it's almost always a great time to pick Azir. And it's locked in blind, and Perks gets to respond with Corki. So we get a lot of scaling being matched on both sides in the mid lane. But this Kazakhs pick here, Broxa, picked up some early kills on it in the last game we saw with Fnatic. Can see the exact same thing for Pride.
1-2 so far for Pride, 1-4 for Nukeduck on the Azir. So not the most successful picks, but ones that are incredibly powerful. We have to see if this is the game where they're able to execute. Now, however, no top laners picked, so we're going to see some of them banned. Trundle, Camille taken off the table.
And I want to mention Cho'Gath, because both these teams struggle when it comes to securing Baron, or struggles when it comes to consistently win late game team fights. And then my good friend Cho'Gath makes it easier. 1, feast the Baron. 2, feast the tank in the team fight. Both, oh, so wonderful if that's where you're struggling. Cyan is also available in this draft, but with the Trundle ban and the Shen ban from G2, it's really telling me they're just going to blind pick either Cyan or Cho'Gath instantly. Oh.
Cho'Gath an option.
I think you should take it, man. You need it if you're G2.
And you don't want to give Schalke a very good tank, because you look at Corki, you look at Varus, that is a ton of magic damage. Sejuani as well as magic damage. You're not diversifying your damage types. It means that Cho'Gath can cut through.
They might get Baron now.
There it is. Varus, good at taking Baron. Jankos doesn't even have to smite. Wonder can do it. And now,
could we get Visichachi on a counter pick?
This is what we asked for. When we said, Schalke, we want to see you improve. We said, put onus on individual players. You said earlier today, no one in Europe wants to take the carry matchup.
My heart.
You're right. No one in Europe wants to take the carry matchup.
They want to just play a tank. And it's Visichachi Maokai. Never something we really put together. Not an iconic duo at all.
No. Dog champs for the former Spring Split champion. Or Spring Split MVP, rather. Not a champion.
More tanks. Get more tanks in here.
So, Deficio, we got a lot of engage for Schalke. We've got 3 damage threats. On the opposite side for G2, we kind of have a damage threat in Cho'Gath, and we have the carry duo of Perks and Hjarnan. Who has the edge here? What are they looking to do?
Okay, love Cho'Gath on one side. Makes it easier to focus on the tank in the team fight or secure a Baron. But on the other side, there's Zia Tristana combo. I think it's going to be easier to execute for Schalke specifically than a Varus in the late game for Hjarnan. It is a tough thing to play, especially against things like Alistar, who can always get in range to WQ. Just combo straight onto them, pop the ulti, and Varus then suddenly has to just kite around in fights and doesn't get to sit and just land a million auto attacks. So in that case, there are good things on both sides, but man, it comes down to big team fights. It comes down to killing the tanks first with 4 carries, 2 on each side, just hitting with whoever is right in front of them. Big, long, drawn-out team fights. Cho'Gath Feast might become the MVP.
It might be. I mean, we've got 2 carries, 3 tanks, basically, against 2 tanks and 3 carries. Time to find out what's superior here.
And time to find out how Pride can play on this Kha'Zix. I think he's had a bad split.
Absolutely.
It's been one of the big problems for Schalke that he's never really figured out how to play with his lineup or what exactly to do on the map. And when you put him on Kha'Zix in this like full-on just big team fights, it's hard to execute that Kha'Zix because it's so hard to find an opening in the late game fights. He needs to try and get some advantage early on.
Pressure on Schalke to early snowball. We've seen it count against them so many times, but the Schalke fan out proud. Look at that man. He loves this team. He wants to see them win. They go toe-to-toe with G2 Esports. Final game of Week 8, folks. And Deficio, Pride in the early game, man. This is so interesting to me. I mean, he went from Rengar one trick to like on Roccat, doing all sorts of different stuff, back to tank duty here on Schalke, now back to Kha'Zix, a very aggressive champion. I really want to see what he can do.
Yeah, we know he can try and invade and duel the Sejuani 1v1. It's not super easy to kill her because she's so tanky and can often just dash away from you. And at the same time, when it comes to ganks, top lane could be a target. Maokai lockdown is great to set it up if you sneak in from the brush with a Kha'Zix. But then if the enemy jungler is there to counter gank you, very quickly it can get turned around. So it's not an easy game for Pride to play with the Kha'Zix here, but a lot of the tank junglers were banned away. Schalke banned 2, one was banned on the side of G2, and then they grabbed the Sejuani, so it kind of pinched the entire tank jungle pool.
Limiting the options, Pride going back to something more aggressive. We've seen the Maokai be very clutch the last few games it was played in EU LCS in terms of setting up ganks on the top side of the map, so maybe it'll be easier for him. It's not a bluff, but it is strong.
Another setup is Alistar against Varus. Just talked about it before, how it's very hard for Varus to avoid getting combo by an Alistar. And because Alistar then stays on top of him, no dashes from this Varus, you get to apply the stun from the E as well, and then suddenly there's a lot of change CC on a squishy AD carry. So Pride, I feel like, can look both mid and bot lane, where there is a CC setup for him. So it's not like Schalke have drafted a comp where they're like, yeah, we don't care about him because we don't want to even try and set him up to succeed. No, they do have some crowd control to help him out.
And it's interesting, Deficio, because both those lanes for G2 may just have to push. Because you see Varus very strong against these AD carries early on. So if they're pushed up, Pride has to pick which lane he wants to gank. And if he guesses wrong and he picks the lane with Jankos, it turns against him so quick. But if he guesses right, he can snowball a lane early on and give Schalke the victory they need.
Very quickly. And this day here, we had the top 5 teams play against the bottom 5 teams. So we could have had a situation where all top 5 teams just got a little bit further ahead, and all the bottom teams just stayed roughly the same, still tied in that 6th place, and no one got really an advantage in playoffs. But what's happened is Rocket and Giants both picked up wins. And Unicorns Love and H3K both lost. So we actually now have the situation where if Schalke lose to G2 Esports, they join H3K and Unicorns at the bottom, out of playoffs. A win behind the rest. But if they win,
they're right back into the thick of it.
Exactly.
They're right on the edge of their path to playoffs, 7-9 with the rest of the teams, that massive tie for 5th place. And for G2, they're still chasing Splice. They can't afford to misstep at all if they want that buy.
Let's see what happens early on here with Jankos moving around. Already killed the Rift Scuttler. He's pinging where he thinks Pride will be. Pride is fairly low on mana, but does have the blue buff. Sneaks in. This is what we talk about with top lane. Maokai's setup is so effective. Will they do something? Oh, I think they know there's a chance Jankos will be around, so they're not going to all in for any sort of gank. Because, as we mentioned there with the counter gank, instantly Pride is dead, and then it's horrible for Schalke.
Bot lane for G2 actually backing off, conceding pressure to Schalke. Vander and Upstate able to push in for now. Good look for the team. Both supports not being too aggressive in the use of the minion dematerializer. May want to save a few stacks for later in the game. And kind of all is quiet in this game. Nukeduck does get a bit of pressure, uses it to lay down some vision.
Though. It's like a lot of scaling on both sides. Mid lane is not going to be that much action between Azir and Corki. Cleanse as well from Nukeduck against Sejuani. So not a setup where we are expecting a ton of early game action, but gives them more time to talk about Schalke specifically and how coming into this week after losing multiple games in a row, it felt like they were done. They were out of the race. But that's just not the case. And after winning yesterday, they have G2, then they play Fnatic next week. Those were 2 games when I looked at the schedule and said, okay, those are 2 losses for Schalke. So at maximum they can win 2 games out of the remaining 4. I don't believe that anymore. I think they have a legit chance of beating G2 today. And that might actually put them at 3 wins out of the last 4 games, and then they're potentially in playoffs.
So what's so terrifying about such a close season is without a couple wins to keep you ahead of the competition, every game matters. You don't get to sit on your high horse here at the end of the season for G2, despite having some very good games.
Yeah, and of course this means that Schalke have to win today, because with Fnatic and the way they're playing, that's not a realistic win for the next week. So this game is super important also just for that confidence. If you have losing and losing and losing, if you can get a 2-0 week here in this playoff race, that's fantastic for a team like Schalke. Let's see what happens. Pride and Jankos find each other for now.
Waiting around, both of them hovering around the mid lane, ready to make a difference there if necessary, but just playing chess with each other in terms of vision. Pride really not sure where Jankos is headed. Neither one of them, interestingly enough, has any camps, so they both have the free time to play vision tag with each other.
But because nothing happened top, Wonder, he sits with the winning matchup. This Cho'Gath can just perma-push 24/7. Bot lane is even, mid lane is even. So it's just Wonder at the moment getting advantage. That's something, G2, they've been missing this. And I talked about this yesterday in the post-game lobby, how it felt like after GP fell out of meta, it really hurt Wonder and G2 Esports. Because suddenly they didn't have this champion that could get a big goal lead early because Wonder played the laning phase well, and then also be a carry late game.
And if Wonder isn't performing, if he's not on those GPs, I feel like it puts even more onus onto Perks. Because Hjarn isn't playing a carry champion. This game's playing Varus. Yes, he can do an insane amount of damage, but it's not a Tristana, right? And when we look at the way that these guys...
he's just not performing like a big carry.
It's very true.
On one of the best teams. Because like, if you are insanely good and on form, you can carry on Varus for sure in the late game. But I think Cho'Gath can do a little bit of what the GP can do well in the laning phase, get a bit of an advantage, and then be super valuable in the late game still. So it's not a big carry, but at least Wonder can be active from early on to late game, which is needed, because it's him and Perks who are the 2 big carries on G2.
All right, well for now, Jankos very proactive in mapping out the early pathing of Pride. Despite Pride not finding a ton of success on this Kha'Zix pick in the past, Jankos still giving him the respect he deserves. Upset taking a bad trade there. Hjarn and Wadid controlling the lane quite well. CS not really a significant lead, but Varus approaching level 6 is a big deal for this bottom lane. A lot more damage with that ult, especially when it applies the blight stacks. Level 6 is coming out, Fischio. With Jankos getting his ult shortly, I feel like this might be the point where we start to see more aggression, more active play from the side of G2.
They probably don't feel like they have to do too many things. Oh, bot lane, small little trade, but yeah, scaling comp versus scaling comp, guys. It becomes a farm fest. G2, after not closing out yesterday, did exactly what happened last time. They just said, all right, don't want to play early game, want to play late game now.
Oh, this is bad news for Vizicachi. He might just be able to get the solo kill here. Luckily, Vizicachi has the passive. Gives him enough healing to stay in this one, but cannot really afford to go low in this laning phase.
Oh, Wonder didn't have ult. Never mind. It was on cooldown.
Feasted a minion. Needed the stack. Does kind of lower the kill pressure, but not really something you need in a tank v tank lane. And Officio, do you remember the last time these teams played? Do you remember what happened?
Yes.
It was the Caps Nuke Duck show, man. It was the LeBlanc versus the Zoe. This time, they're both playing late game scaling carries. It's a little bit different.
Right. Good for G2 as well. They've swapped in Perks instead of Caps for this matchup this time around.
Yep, there you go. Nuke Duck, Perks, Caps.
Good mid laners, same thing, almost. But yeah, Zoe LeBlanc. Was there one game where it felt like Schalke said, Nuke Duck, great mechanics, you're unleashed.
Be free, my son.
Go, carry us. After that game, after they lost, they said, Nuke Duck, you suck.
Died to that one shot from Perks at bottom lane. Yeah. Never again.
Never allowed to play any fun champions. He has Galio every game, and now Azir.
And then he died a lot on the Galio, and they know.
They're like, okay, no Galio for you either.
Back to Azir. Perks. Nuke Duck really hates this matchup. That's my new theory. Corki seems to be a struggle for him. A very good Corki player himself, though. And Perks with the package, just constantly threatening. Maybe could look for the all-in. Cleanse available for Nuke Duck. Perks just going to use the package to clear the wave.
Oh, around mid, Wander shows up. I don't know why I call him Wander instead of Vander. Wanter the Wanderer.
I think you should name every player in the EU LCS.
You know, I used to call him Vander Life.
Oh, that's
He used
fair.
to play Thresh all the time.
I remember those days.
And he would hook everyone. A long time ago.
Do you remember
is
when
a veteran.
Vidid was a playmaker on Rocket?
I remember that.
The Zaya Rakan days. I'm kind of. It's surprising to me that this game we didn't see any kind of Zaya Rakan action.
It just feels like G2 knows they should play around solo laners and not the bot lane, and that's why they don't pick it. But could try at least, because it could definitely be a big thing for Jan and Vidid. But in this game still, we're kind of waiting for Pride to decide if he wants to gank a lane or not. It's been just a farm fest so far. He's now looking.
Don't pressure him. He's taking his time, Deficio.
Hey,
he's figuring it out. Where does he got to go?
Well, he got the Warrior enchant, so his damage is pretty high. Let's see if he sneaks into mid.
Oh, do some good damage. Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go. This man, passive for like 8 weeks, comes into a win or lose games and just says, yeah, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to bring it home.
See, I love this about Kha'Zix, the fact that you can get stealth from the mid lane brush, then pop your own ulti to remain stealth, and then you can actually just show up in front of them and they don't see you. And the Warrior enchant, he just completed, made him kill someone.
Lockdown, he doesn't get the input buffer, he's dead. Whoa, junglers making stuff happen. Deficio, you want a scaling game. Junglers say no. They're here to kill people.
For now, 1 kill each. Still remain true that it's all about scaling and farming. Good play from Pride first. Can do it again. Perks lost his flash from their play before, and you can just sneak in. The control ward in the mid lane brush. Passive from the R, then pop the R, and then you get the kill. Meanwhile, bot lane, I like the response here from G2. And 1-1. Good kill, a very important kill for a Rage Blade 80 carry.
And this is the thing, Upset doesn't have a lot of defensive options from Vander. Yes, he can headbutt people away, but if one form of CC connects, the immediate follow-up is there. He has to pick what to input buffer, but when there's a VAR assault and a Sejuani ult, as long as G2 wait, they can hit him with something.
Looks like we're getting a lane swap from Schalke. G2 are matching it, just walk towards mid lane and then deciding, okay, let's go top. So every lane just swaps around, no one is going to get a big turret advantage because of it. I want to see Pride either go back mid or just go up top and try and kill Yana with these Alistar all in. You got Alistar ulti ready. Perks uses TP as well, man.
Both supports going for the Moby Boots, making their way into lane. Vidid waiting. Pride is on the top side. It is an option for the team. Not going to take the option quite yet, however. And the good news right now for Schalke is that despite the fact that Tristana not going to be quite as strong on one item, significantly weaker in fact, Hjarnan isn't there yet. Only the pieces left for Gwynsu's. They don't have to worry about that, so at least they can sit somewhat comfortably in this lane, despite the fact that their lane swap was spotted out.
But because no one is like super dominating in the laning phase here, we don't get that big early advantage for either of the teams. It is just very even. You can't really start the Rift Held because you're not, again, pushing the enemy team constantly to the turrets around it. You need Pride then to show up first. And Jankos is trying to like match where Pride is, or at least gank if he sees something from the Kha'Zix. But he knows that he's not able to deal the same damage. And yeah, top lane fight. Sick damage.
Ooh, look at them hit each other. Cat pajamas versus Void Monster. Or tree and cat pajamas, rather.
Alright, the control ward is now in this brush, which means Pride can go from top side and try and kill Perks again if Perks stays in lane. Or you can just control on this side here, and now the Perks gone back to base. Schalke could try play on the Varus, but it would require them sadly to tower dive him, and that is too risky for them.
Yeah, pressure mid and top, but a ward from G2 stops them from trying to take Rift Herald. Pride now gets to invade into the jungle. Pretty much perma-stealth here as he rotates through the bushes. Can try to take the red buff, but G2 know this is happening. Well, it looks like they're not going to contest it in the end. Going to back off, but Rageblade has come in, Deficio. We talked about item spikes being important. How big is this for Hjarnan?
I mean, it's super big if they actually do play to his side and utilize it. Otherwise, it doesn't really mean anything for him, because at the moment he shouldn't be allowed to sit and auto attack a lot with a Kha'Zix and an Alistar just jumping him. Perks knows. Got the package, but he's now used defensively. And if you're G2, topside is where you want to play. Play around Hjarnan, he's strong. This Tristana, item-wise, not very strong at the moment.
Just bits and pieces, Deficio, looking for the 2-item spike before it's even remotely a threat. We've seen Upset be good when he makes it to the late game, but often makes a lot of mistakes in the early to mid to sacrifice. And we didn't. Hjarnan, really good spot to initiate for the team. G2 feeling confident as a whole as they push into the jungle, lay down a bit of vision here.
It's a tense game. It's two teams who've tried to go late game before, and it's not always been successful for them, mainly due to some individual mistakes. You highlighted Upset before here. We've seen the same thing on the side of G2, over-chasing for some kills or fall too far behind because, yeah, they lost an early Baron. Things like these can happen in this game here. G2 need to keep up with Splice. Tie for that second place. Fnatic, they're gone. They're first place. That's fine. You need that second buy so you're actually not on the same side of Fnatic in the bracket as well. So you have that road towards the final where you don't need to face Fnatic. That's another big thing for Vitality.
Yeah, falling to fourth is terrifying. Could set you up to play them depending on how the rest of the bracket plays out. Of course, reseeding into semifinals, really terrifying prospect for a lot of these teams, but it's just as important for Schalke. Deficio on the opposite side, they need to work their way up. Once again, that mess of a tie is right above them. They find one win, suddenly they're in a good spot. But G2 taking control of the game as they manage to find the Rift Herald.
Well, it's what we talk about, right? Play around Varus with the Rageblade. It's like he completes it, they go for it. TP coming in, we might get a first fight here.
Chachi could look to try to find the fight. Pride is into the middle of the pit. Vander does find the engagement. He takes so much damage in return. Tanks are trying to make their way into the backline. Hjarnan does a lot of damage, but he is going to get taken down. Wonder manages to grab one back in return. Visit Chachi wants to keep the fight going. He is unconcerned. Interrupt onto Upset. Not going to find a way forward. Just going to be the 1-for-1 in the end.
Meanwhile, Pride tried to kill Jankos there. Stopped the Rift Herald. Almost went down in favor of G2, but is still alive. Jankos was forced out. Yeah, 1-for-1. Let's see, double TP used as well. Everyone just matching each other in this game.
And Deficio, both of these teams are so good at snowballing when they have a lead. Yes, the mid-game and late-game shot calling falls apart a little bit. I'll give you that. But when they find leads, when they find advantages like this Rift Herald, they look so good.
No one gets it, though. As the fight breaks out, Jankos is forced to run away. Chachi shows up, gets the kill, of course, onto Varus, but it is traded back against Vander. So no big advantage gained just off the fight itself, but G2 right back towards the Rift Herald. And this time, Schalke not in position to fight it. Chachi is bot lane. No one can actually contest it. And G2, important objective if they can get first turret off this one.
Maybe get a Cloud Drake. Is still solid. Pride leaps into the pit, looks to take it solo. Easy for the Kha'Zix to do at this point in the game, but definitely not the equivalent trade. A lot will depend on what G2 can do with the Rift Herald, however, Deficio. Can they actually start to break down some towers, open up the macro game a little bit more?
Should be able to get at least one turret with it. Pride gets that Cloud Drake for himself. Top lane is where G2 are currently looking. Continue playing around the Varus with the 1-item spike. Well, both mid laners. Zoe LeBlanc last time. Insane action from the early game. Corki is here this time. Insane farming.
Oh, Deficio is going to be a tough hold on the top side. Varus is going to get the free stack up on the Rageblade. Going to get a walk right up to that tower. Threaten Upset and Vander.
Oh, Chachi's running all the way from bot lane to top.
They're going to get the tower. But is the fight going to go against them? Vander? Moby Boot's not going to proc quite yet. Pride is there. Too little too late, though. Tower drops.
Man, that's such a bad call from Schalke.
Because now look at bottom side.
Yeah.
Wonder's just looking to grab a tower for himself.
The call is, let's go top lane. There's no TP from Wonder. We can maybe stop the Rift Herald push. But by the time he's even at the mid lane with the Maokai, the Rift Herald has already charged and killed the turret. So now Chachi just lost the entire wave bot lane. And then he goes back and Wonder's like, oh, hey.
But you know what, Deficio? He made it back in time to save the turret. You know why? Cloud Drake.
Yes, that's it. So he saved the turret that was never really supposed to die, and they still lost top lane turret.
So it's a little grim, is what you're telling me.
It's a small thing. Like, it's not gonna be a big deal in terms of the game. He loses 1 or 2 waves on bot side. That's fine. He's Maokai. He's still pretty useful. Sorry, almost said useless.
Fishy, you can't just hate on this champ every time it gets picked, man. It still has good engage. Now, the good news to Fishy for Schalke is that yes, they're losing a bit in map pressure because that tower is gone, but the gold is still about dead even. Slight farm advantage in the mid lane for Nukeduck.
His package.
Good poke comes in. 1 item, still a nice spot for Nukeduck to be in, but Trinity Force for Perks also really strong.
And we're setting up for that late game fight where, let's talk about that after Wonder.
Challenging Smite goes down. They're going to slowly try to burn through him, but Pride has to be very careful. If you go in, if you get hit by that combo on the Cho'Gath, you die immediately. Jankos is here as well. Mizuchachi now going to try to disengage. Pride is running. He is leaving his top laner to die. Perks coming in as well. Nothing left for that team. Wonder takes down Mizuchachi.
We talked about the potential of Pride ganking the Cho'Gath, but that was about 15 minutes ago. Now this Cho'Gath is very big, very tanky, and Perks had package in the mid lane to just fly down as well and help his team. Play completely backfired for Schalke. Very tiny reward they could have gotten. Basically just a flash from Wonder, that's it. They're gonna lose this bot lane turret as well. Upset will trade top lane. That's another kill then for G2 Esports, and they're getting ahead in gold.
And the good news for Schalke is they have control of the top side. Baron is spawning shortly, but this is a bit grim. 2-0 for the Cho'Gath. We talked about Wonder. Potential to be incredibly disruptive in these late game fights. How this pick could suit him, as it does have some of that high damage, high playmaking potential in the late game.
Love me some Cho'Gath. Almost 100% win rate on patch 8.4 coming into today. I have to double check after today what the current win rate is for Cho'Gath on this patch. But yes, we get to see this setup where it's Nukeduck upset, trying to carry against Jan and Perks on the 280 carries, but also against Wonder's Cho'Gath. And I think that's one of the crucial things that could swing it in G2's favor, is if he executes properly, knows exactly when to land silence, they make a quick call to kill a tank, he feasts, and they burst it down with double A to carry. It's so important in these late game fights to just kill the front line first. And that's what they can do.
Deficio, it's hard enough for Pride as we get later in the game to make an impact on this Kha'Zix. You talked about it yourself, but against a Cho'Gath, you leap in, you get silenced, you die. Yep. That is the play pattern.
And I don't feel like Pride has gotten far enough ahead in this early game. Like, yeah, sure,
I mean, this man is the king of farming. Don't get me wrong, he's part of the reason that the gold is still so close for Schalke, but this is a champion that's supposed to kill people, Deficio.
Yeah, and there were a lot of openings early game where he could have jumped in and been a lot more aggressive. Slow game, a lot of farming. Get a pause as well.
Check on the CS scores. Schalke doing pretty well across the board, except for top lane where they're falling behind. 2 items on the way for upset. Interesting, he stopped at the Kerchi Shard before finishing the IE. Just wants more attack speed. Varus on 2 items is a terrifying prospect. Corki well on the way to the Infinity Edge.
I think G2, within the next few minutes, when they see the items on Tristana, if they want to play aggressive, can actually go towards Baron.
Absolutely.
And worst case, you turn against a very, very weak Tristana at the moment. And you just take the 5-on-5 team fight where you have 2 fully completed items on Yanan. Perks is building towards IH, but he's not there yet, so they're missing at least his 2-item power spike. But they have a pretty fast Baron with this comp. Double A to carry, one of them is Varus with the Rage Blade, and of course Cho'Gath Feast.
Yeah, the Blight stacks, the additional magic damage, the double proc, Corki with the MR and Armor Shred. I mean, Cho'Gath to secure it. You're right, Fisho. This is... It's not triple Mountain Drake from Fnatic last game,
no,
but
so there's risk involved, but if they want to try and actually force a fight with the AD carry advantage, that's one way they can do it. There's no Drake to take at the moment. It's not like they're able to just chain siege down a turret, because there is a lot of ways for Schalke to then like TP in behind them and start a fight, but this game is kind of gone the way T2 wanted it to go, because they have not fallen behind against the Kha'Zix.
And the question we asked at the start of this game was, what style are G2 going to play? This time they've opted for a bit more late game. A bit more late game options across their team. Now, can they execute when it comes to making the big decisions like taking Baron? That's my next question, because we've seen both Schalke, G2, even teams like Misfits really not be proactive enough, I guess, when you look at it, right? Not be the team that can just make that super decisive call onto Baron, get that, close out the game when it counts, when they have a lead or an advantage.
Yeah, quite a few teams prefer to play it super safe. And it's a best of 1 on stage. If you make a big mistake, you might lose the game for your entire team. So I can't really blame them for it. Sometimes, though, it is good to see a team saying, you know what? there's a good chance here. Let's take it. Let's go for it. Let's see if we can execute it properly. But then when it fails, we flame them. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Rightfully so, Deficio.
If you don't do it, we're like, oh, please do it. And if you do it and you mess it up because it is a bit risky,
like, why would you do that?
Dad, you're so dumb. What is that? You know, so
Hindsight, the ultimate tool of the analyst.
it is the best thing about casting. The classic hindsight.
And Deficio, I feel like we talk about the playoff pressure, right? This is big for Schalke, getting into playoffs. But for G2, I feel like it's even more because we talk about locking second place. We have to remember that a bye to the semifinal is not only seeing what your opponent is before you play, it's not only a guaranteed spot, but it's the equivalent of winning an entire best of 5 in quarters, right? You can save yourself an entire best of 5 if you just win a best of 1 here against Schalke, and if you keep winning as we move forward. We are now back in the game. Baron was the play you talked about before as we got into the pause, Deficio.
Just as a potential if they want to try and force a fight around it or just burn it down if Schalke is not ready to react. But around mid lane, we have Chachi roaming. Perks knows, steps away. There's too many wards in this game. They see everything. We should remove Sightstone as well.
Yeah.
We actually did already remove it. We should remove support items.
No one should be able to buy wards. Lower vision range, play like you're in Nocturne Alt the entire game.
Might actually just make the game even more passive because then no one wants to do anything.
Oh, man. Tracker's Knife would have made the difference.
Maybe if you only had one lane in the game.
Ooh, wait, what if people couldn't pick their champions, Deficio?
And they couldn't go back to base either, unless they died.
I like that.
That could be an interesting game mode.
You know what I think would be broken there? Soraka. Oh, it's a pause. Hey guys, we'll keep you updated. I know you're not excited to see the double pause, but it's important that players can be able to play. Nuke Duck's on your screen, so we're going to assume that he is the cause of the pause. Once again, we want to make sure that he's comfortable because he's playing Azir, man. He's important. He doesn't get to point and click. He has to manage soldiers. He has to carry late game fights.
And another positive about the pause is we get to show the players on the full screen. Normally it is hidden down the corner. We actually notice the champions more, but now we get to look at Nuke Duck and Pride.
And Nuke Duck has reported FPS drops. Not something anybody wants to play with, so we will work on resolving the issue, or league officials will, rather. Not related to the previous pause, I have been informed.
Oh.
So multiple issues for Nuke Duck. This is tough, man. Not only is it a hard game, the FPS is working against him. All odds stacked against him.
He's almost on 2 items, though. He's getting close.
This is like the Rocky Balboa of games. You know what I mean? He's rising up. We're going to play Gonna Fly now. He's going to come back. He's going to stand up at the interview. He's going to look into the eyes of Pyro or medics ever doing it, and he's going to say, "You're the duck." Drop the mic, walk away. Crowd goes wild. Or he's going to lose horribly. We'll find out. We're back in game. G2 pushing in on the top side.
We already had 1 mic drop this week.
It's true.
Fun fact, apparently there was a pillow underneath.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to break a mic so medic can make a statement. That feels fiscally irresponsible.
But like, could have been slightly more badass if it actually hit the ground and there wasn't a pillow down there.
I don't think the part of the mic drop that anyone remembers is the sound of the mic hitting the ground.
Call the Baron. Call the Baron. They're doing it. They're starting it. They're going to force around it. Enemy AD carry is weak. They have 2 items. They have a Cho'Gath. Turn and fight.
Maybe looking for the fight. Vader trying to find the engage on the side. Is going to knock up the Cho'Gath. Pride is in the middle of everything, but he gets knocked up immediately. Vizichachi has thrown out the cats. Upset is uncontested as he hits. Nuke Duck hits on the side. This is exactly what they want. They have taken down 1 kill. The man advantage is in favor of G2, but what else can they get? Wonder could be in trouble. Can they find the reset on the kill? Upset grabs 1 back. No one has an advantage. Support traded for top lane. Maybe a slight edge to Schalke.
Oh, we have to see the replay there, how G2 started the fight, because Perks actually jumped towards Nuke Duck and forced him out, and then the fight happened behind him. G2 did turn around and get that 1 kill, though. I respect the call, because I think with the advantage they had on Yanan, and the fact they could have feasted it down if Schalke were not ready to react, I respect it. Sadly for them, if this control ward had been there actually before they moved in, Schalke wouldn't have had this kind of vision, and maybe they could have burned it down in time, but obviously because they place it, Schalke knows it's starting. We see the fight, so they're actually all 5 together, all hitting with the but Nuke Duck from the side deals a ton of damage, and he alone forces 4 members of G2 to step away from Wonder. So the fact that Nuke Duck was forced out of the fight early gave him an entrance to flank.
All right, but here's my concern, Deficio. Why does the Kha'Zix only do 500 damage? That does not look like a good sign for Schalke as the game goes on.
I mean, he never got a chance to jump in. Nuke Duck already told him he got it from the side.
But what happens when they don't find the flank, Deficio?
Well, then they might struggle, but then your Tristana might have 3 items, and he can become the carry. They're now starting it, both teams, man.
I'm ready to go. package going to be used. Perk sleeps into everything, gets slowed down. He is isolated. Void Spikes doing a bit of work, but interesting. Schalke so aggressive to start the Baron. They don't have a Warmogs on their side, but Vizicachi wants to keep a fight going. The chain CC goes in. Pride still hesitating to go over the wall. Jankos almost getting picked up. Upset, though, is not quite as scared. Maybe going to look for the kill on Jankos as they fall backwards. Vizicachi is hungry for blood. He is tired of the passive games. He looks to make a play. Cannot find a kill, however.
Oh, that was so aggressive from Schalke. Just looking to force plays all the time, but G2, they're okay with this so far. Fight in terms of HP went in their favor, and now they get to at least push in mid and go and clear some water up Baron.
Perks is TPing in. They can just look to take the Baron. Pride trying to stay stealthed up. He may have the option to steal, but there's no TP from Vizicachi.
He's running back with home guards. He's on his way. 4 members still around from Schalke. Perks taking some damage. Oh, Pride
he's in wants to get Perks. So much damage comes in from the Kazakhs. Right back with the flash out. Flash trade for nothing, though. Perks low on health. They need to get something from this.
Pride had to make a decision real quick. Do I flash to try and kill Perks, or do I flash out to safety? He went out to safety, joined his team in the mid lane. Perks back in base for now. Mid lane turret goes down, so Schalke in the end.
With a gold lead to Fischio.
It all started with start Baron, force fight, and then look for another fight right after. And while they didn't kill anyone, they forced the mid laner back to base. And now they can at least get a few control wards around Baron as well. There's a ton of them in here.
Clear out the vision. Pride waiting in the jungle, not going to connect on Perks.
But this is why we waited 20 minutes, because we knew both teams wants to get 2 items, they want to fight. They want to play team fights. It comes down to execution now. Perks might get caught again. No, Pride this time does not jump him.
I mean, you look at the way Pride is playing, I feel like he's getting more and more confident as this game goes on.
That was pretty sick. He snuck in between all 5 players right there.
It's always crazy to watch.
Sadly for him, he didn't get the flash from Perks, and he had to flash out. So I guess Perks technically
won out on the trade. Well, the thing is Schalke off of that, right, get the mid lane tower, so that's the advantage they get. But now they have to spend the next 3.5 minutes with Pride not actually being able to have kill pressure.
But importantly, Schalke did not fall further behind when they had Static Shift, BF Sword on Tristana against 2 fully completed items on Varus. They actually managed to stall it by going 1 for 1 in the first fight around Baron, and then making these plays we just saw here right after. So now Upset has been farming well. He finally got a kill in the game. 3 items ready, and suddenly his scaling starts to kick in.
3 item points so terrifying. Doesn't even the armor pen. Can just threaten Perks and Yarnan in these fights. Probably going to clear out the last little bit of vision that G2 have. Indeed, though, on the way. Not going to let it go down uncontested. Drops a ward of the red wall to make sure he's safe before he pushes in, but respecting the potential for a stealth Kazakhs as he backs off there.
Kazakhs now that, again, there's so few defensive wards, are so good at sneaking around here.
Going to try to make his way out. They spot him briefly. He's going to get out.
Because normally, before this, you would have a lot of wards placed like outside the brushes as well, so you saw him enter the brush in the first place. You can ping, okay, he's in our jungle, watch out. But now it's fairly easy for him to find big holes on the map, so he can actually walk outside the brush, is not spotted, then into the brush, and of course then it kicks in with the invis, and he just kind of sneaks around, and you have no idea if he's in your jungle or not, if he's sitting in a side lane, brush in a lane, and he will jump you, and it becomes super difficult to play against.
And we've seen this exact situation for Rawcat, actually. Memento, the one sneaking through the jungle, finding the pick that would win them the game. Can Pride do the same? Now trying to sneak his way into mid lane.
You know, it's always about mid lane push when both teams want to play for Baron. If you push mid, you get entrance to the river, you get to kill the wards. Jankos lost his ulti.
Tried to ult, Nuke Duck in the side lane. Missed it on camera, but important to note that the cooldown is gone.
Chachi's going to get a free bot lane turret for himself, because Wonder pushed out and then walked up here to get mid lane control and then kill all the control wards. So Schalke gets a small advantage again from this.
And we're at the point where everyone is playing chess to Fischio. It's not about the kills anymore, it's about the vision, it's about the pressure. G2 may have given up the bottom tower, but now they have control of pit, now they have the vision laid down. You can see Schalke very aware of that.
And this is the most classic Schalke game from this split. Super even against the top teams. Never feels like they are weaker or anything. But then when we come to that late game point, they've been farming towards, mistakes can happen. If the mistakes do not happen, they can win late game fights. They can win this game.
I want to go back to something you said in draft. You talked about Schalke having the easier to execute carries when it came to late game fighting. Do they actually have the edge here up against G2, you think, if the game goes late enough?
I think there's so much scaling on both sides that it just comes down to execution. Vander might have to sacrifice himself every fight when he jumps in, because Cho'Gath can feast and kill him through the ult.
Perkz looking for the single point.
Way too aggressive.
Right there. Goodbye. The sole remaining member of the OG G2 lineup may have just given up everything, but Vizichachi is there. Upset is ready for the reset. He's going to free hit onto the remaining members. They're going to find the engaged. Schalke, immediate turnaround, the double. Bring it home. One more for Nukeduck, the Baron in the sights of Schalke. We wanted action. They delivered.
But what just happened? The captain on G2 Esports, desperate to make a play, dives headfirst into Schalke and just dies instantly. Okay, you got the package, cool, you can try and do something. He sees Nukeduck, but the rest of Schalke are right next to him. After the package, he jumps into his face. That was like the dumbest play I've seen all split.
Guys, I wish I could say it's a joke, but Perkz may have cost his team a game there. May have cost second place. That has to hurt for the player.
Okay, clearly, he either thought that the rest of Schalke were not nearby, even though he just saw them walk towards him, or he thought his entire team would follow him when he jumped onto Nukeduck.
This is the nightmare point. We talked about bars, we talked about Corki. Guess what they do a lot of? Magic damage. Guess what the minion does not care about? Perkz can barely touch this one. Cho'Gath there with some true damage. Maybe can hope to take it away with the Feast. A smite from Jankos as well. Schalke not going to try to protect it. They know the minion dematerializes there. That is the only thing stopping that minion from sieging.
And that is not the kind of mistake we see from Perkz very often. It must have been a good reason for it that we just didn't know. Maybe the communication was just off for the moment here, or for that play. And G2, they lose Baron, they lose the fight. Schalke didn't even have to set up a Baron play on their own. They just legit just killed the carry who jumped in their face.
Sometimes when enemy teams throw, all you have to do is catch, Deficio.
That is very true, and this is so huge for the Schalke team. They almost gave up on making playoffs, but if this is a 2-0 week we're looking at if they can close out this game.
Once again, they make it into the midst of the teams. All the teams tied for 5th place right now if they find the win. They're well on the way. Pride.
Still, G2 can still come back. This is not the end of the world just yet for them. They still have good late game on their side, especially if Yanin can actually auto-attack with this on-hit Varus build. They gotta get through Vander's ulti. When that is gone, they can kill the support easily. If they get enough time, they can kill the Maokai as well. And because, again, this battle of killing tanks, they have the Feast from Cho'Gath. That's big for them. But they need Schalke to run at them, so the two carries get enough time to just land enough autos. Not, of course, dive head first into the enemy team with your carry.
Just so many big risks. Or that single big risk rather taken for Perkz. Have to wonder if it had gone the way he planned, if it would have been the edge for G2.
Again, there must have been a reason for it.
I mean, you got to give them the credit, but you talk about communication breakdown. Looks like Schalke may have had one as they start to split up. Deficio, the fight is going down. Vizichachi now trying to run for his life. If he gets picked off here, this will be a big change in the favor of G2. The immediate Feast down. G2 not going to give up any more on this Baron. They buy themselves about 30, maybe 50 seconds as Vizichachi drops.
And that's why we just said this game is definitely not over. We're going to get more of these kind of fights. Perkz can redeem himself and still become the big carry for his team. Schalke, they'll completely split up. Chachi caught out alone. That is one kill for G2. And gold-wise, yeah, you're 4K down, but we're starting to get further and further into the game, so it won't mean that much. In terms of carry gold on carry items, they are fairly even still.
Of course, Upset looks like he will be going for the Mercurial Scimitar, a little bit of extra safety on top of the 3 items. Nothing to shred the tanks, but does have a decent amount of magic damage with the Energizer build. Double Warmogs on the side of G2. The next Baron that spawns, they're going to be able to pressure just about indefinitely.
And I went back to look at that play from Perkz with the G2 vision on. By the time he clicked that Valk to jump towards Nukeduck, he only saw Vander and Nukeduck right around him. Pride was stealth, so he didn't see him, and he knew Upset was a little bit further away. That's why Perkz felt like there was a chance here to jump Nukeduck in a potential 4v2, 5v2 situation. The team could maybe follow him, and he could then have killed their Azir, taken Baron. So he didn't just see the enemy team around him and said, yeah, I don't care, I'm gonna die here. No, he actually, due to the stealth from the Kazakhs, and because Upset was a little bit further away from the fight, he thought there was a chance to kill the Azir. Sadly for him, Kazakh showed up, and Nukeduck and the rest of G2 were kind of like, what happened there? And Nukeduck just killed him.
And Division, we talk so much about X Factor this season, right? Whether it's innovation in the draft, unique strategies, or individual playmaking. Well, G2 definitely not short of it. They have Jankos, they have Perks, these guys known for making big plays, but this is what happens when it goes wrong. Sometimes that big play is you are playing on the edge, you are taking a big risk.
And you feel like you need to be the carry here. You feel like you can be the one who gets a big advantage for your team. Perks has done it multiple times this split. He did it last time he played against Schalke on the Zoe. And then he goes for a play like that one and it backfires big time.
Yarn gonna have to burn the ult to disengage as Vizicachi may have found the pick onto Jankos. Both teams quite vocal on stage. Clearly aware of the tenseness of this game. Vizicachi has the ultimate available. Pretty easy for Perks to make his way out though. Dashes on just about everybody. Indeed, with the freedom to dash to an ally means it's really needs to be the flank if he wants to find it. But Schalke pushing forward with confidence. Set up the tower. Using the Sun Disc. Ooh, and Pride in the middle of the jungle. We'll see that Jankos is isolated. It's just going to immediately leap on. Yeah. Leap out.
You're not here to assassinate the Sejuani. Sadly for Pride, he was hoping that a squishy guy would walk from bot lane or from mid to top lane. Did not happen though. He's got the Black Cleaver for himself. A lot of damage and rest of G2 group together. Looking for revenge after losing that Baron.
Shopping. Oh, gets stunned but makes it over the wall. That's going to be crucial. Sun Disc goes down. Meanwhile, Vizicachi pushes in on the bottom side. Baron in 1 minute and 14 seconds. That will be the arena. That will be what the teams play for.
A ton of damage on the side of Yanin if he gets time. 3 items only on Perks. He's not been able to get ahead in this game. He's behind in farm against this Azir, who's already completed 4.5 on the side of Nukeduck. So it is a tough game for Perks to try and carry in. It's going to shift more over to Yanin. This could be a big game for him to step up and secure a win for G2 against Schalke here. Tie with Splice for that second place.
And Officio, it's tough because both teams are going to be so reliant on execution. Hjarnan needs that Rage Blade stacked when they fight. If he doesn't have the time to stack it up, if he's forced out of the fight too soon, his DPS drops monumentally. I mean, all those on-hit effects so reliant on that passive to really synergize combined with the Blight. Opposite side, Upset much easier for him in these fights. He has safety, he has a leap, he has a disengage. Tristana is an independent fighter in the late game.
Definitely true. So far, Nukeduck and Upset played well. Not made any mistakes in the late game. And that is key. Pride is once again sneaking in that jungle. He's looking for Perks. Or maybe Yanin if Yanin walks in near him. Sneaky.
Leaps in, wants to get onto Yarnan. They're going to go through as the team. Yarnan has split himself off from the rest of the lineup. The rest of G2 now leaping into save. Perks wants to break it off. Vander still so tanky, courtesy of the ultimate. Nukeduck not going to get knocked up on the backside, but it's one pick off for G2. A lot of low health bars. Is this the moment? Nukeduck fires back. Vizicachi's on the way in. Void Spikes don't connect. It is just going to be a 1-for-1 once again. Both supports taken off the board.
But Yanin back in base. Baron is alive. They killed Wardid already. They're actually baiting around it, trying to see if they can kill Wonder.
Gonna be a slow burn down. Leandry's getting the max health. Could be enough. Giant Slayer passive. Pride poking down onto Perks. Schalke just letting G2 know that they control the jungle, but Jankos and Wonder unafraid. They have the Warmogs. They want to keep this territory their own.
Another 1-for-1. Close fights. I like Pride there. Whenever the team is sitting mid, he knows that on the Kha'Zix, you can't just teamfight the traditional way. You always gotta find these different flanks. And he's always looking for either Yanin or Perks. He managed to start the fight then, the rest of the team followed up, but then, sadly, ended up still losing a member. Perks.
And let's look at the cost, Officio. Flash from Perks, flash heal from Hjarnan. Pride again is here. Not gonna follow up, doesn't want to take the risk. He's gonna leap on the Perks. Jankos is there, we need to go back. Pride now running for his life. If Jungler goes down, it could be big. Manages to make it out.
Yeah, he did not expect Jankos to be in that brush. So little vision on the map here in the late game. A lot of gambles being taken for Pride when he goes all in, especially with someone who's hiding in their own jungle. There's always a chance there's backup right next to them. And suddenly, the Kha'Zix will not be able to assassinate anyone when it's a 1v2 situation. Perks got his 4th item now. Still alive. Level 18 as well on the Corkian.
Oh, Deficio. 10th spot to be. You can see how much damage Pride can do if he's left alone. G2 need to stay, group need to stay together.
And these tense games, if it's the start of the split, it's like, it's important to win it, but there's not that much at stake just yet. But when you're played in week 8 or day 2, just a few games left per team in this split, suddenly it just means everything for you.
And look, if you're G2 and you lose, You're not hoping, you're praying that Splice find a loss. Vander, though, in trouble. He's going to use the ultimate choke. That's just going to knock him up. That is the pick G2 wanted. Vizicachi trying to bring it back, though. Can they take out Wadid in the exchange? It's just the support for the support trade. Vizicachi's still alive. Gargoyle's doing play, keeping him healthy. True damage not going to come in. Pride from the side. He wants to find the flank. What's he going to get? He leaps into Perks, but they just cut right through him. Not enough, because Upset finds the kill. He wants to leap and he wants to keep the play going. Wonder, is he going to die? If he does, they're going to get the reset. No. Healing up enough from the regen. Jankos flashes out, but a masterful fight from Schalke.
2 for 1 here. We talked earlier about how Vander probably just needs to sacrifice himself in every single fight because Cho'Gath can use Feast on him, but that's a big cooldown gone then. Pride was sitting next to Vander and just shooting. No one touched him. Dealt a ton of damage onto G2 and second Baron now for Schalke. Elder Drake spawn and G2 is starting it instantly. Upset is the only one here trying to get the Rift Scuttler.
It's going to be big. We'll get the passive vision down. Denies Jankos their counterplay. They burned the TP for it. Upset just going to pick it up.
G2 got to back away.
Oh, G2, this is brutal.
A lot of things have gone wrong for them here in the late game, and this is another one. Lost fight in mid lane that they initiated to then lose Baron, 2 members, and Elder Drake. Everything is in Schalke's favor. This playoff run that they can pull off, it could be insane after losing so many games in a row. If they can actually bounce back, beat teams like G2 Esports, and start going on a bit of a win streak. This is the fight from before. Upset is left on his own to just shoot. And of course, if an 80 carry is left to just sit and hammer away, he's eventually going to kill people.
Oh, the damage onto Perks. Tristana is terrifying, man. And Upset, good movement. Only really needed to dodge the Braum ult. And Deficio, this is just an immense performance coming from Schalke. The fact that they had the confidence to turn that fight around despite Vander getting caught out. They knew they had to force the fight at that moment. Tower getting sieged down, Elder Dragon as well. This would be a monumental hold for G2. Can they do it? Can they keep the second place dream alive? Schalke, will they earn their spot in playoffs?
And so far, this is the most important game both teams have played all split. One team trying to hold on to bye weeks, another team trying to make it into playoffs after basically thinking they were done, they were out. Not the case. Winning here, they tie for 5th place with 4 other teams in the EU LCS. And then next week, they can decide on their own if they want to make playoffs or not.
Slow, steady siege. G2 see they have no options. They give up the first inhibitor of the game. Schalke now moving into the mid lane, ready to go. Ping is coming down on the wave. G2 looking for a way to cut it before the Baron buff gets there. They're not going to find the chance.
Full items on most of the carries. Void Staff coming in for Perks next, but it's not here for the next team fight. And Schalke getting more objectives.
Second inhibitor to Deficio. Tension just continues to build. Looking for that opening, looking for that opportunity to close out. Schalke know the ball is in their court. G2 hoping, praying that Schalke will throw it back to them, give them a chance for some counterplay, give them a fight that they can win, but Schalke have not shown the opportunity.
There's enough wave clear on the side of G2 to just stall against the super minions. They get at least one more big fight. It's been rough for them because they spend most of the time killing Vander. And then when he dies, the 2 carries on Schalke have already killed 1 important member on the side of G2.
And I feel like when you're Wonder, you see Alistair, you see the damage reduction, you go, true damage is great here. But then you don't have it. You don't have any threat onto Upset. He's not scared of you. Nukeduck is not scared of you anymore. You stop being a threat onto that backline, and suddenly Vizicachi just looks like the better tank in a lot of these fights because he's the one who keeps forcing the engages. He's the one who keeps making these fights turn in the favor of Schalke, even when they start on a bad foot.
But we also talked again about how it's easier for Schalke to execute with their carries, because this Varus, it's so hard to move around these fights properly, knowing that anything that jumps him forces him to stop auto-attacking.
Last time we saw these 2 play, it was Hjarnan on the Varus as well. Him and Upset both had very poor performances across the game. It was the mid laners who brought it back. So the question is this Hjarnan's chance for redemption, or can Perks once again find a clutch play to bring G2 back in their favor? He has the Void Staff now. He is full items. He is not going to do more damage than this.
Sieging on top side, waiting for super minions, bot and mid lane. Not here yet for Schalke, so all of G2 can defend the 1 lane.
Ooh, Deficio just...
I love it, man.
It's so tense. I just have to...
This is the kind of game you want, where there's so much at stake. None of these teams are locked for anything, and that's a good thing when we get this late in the season. Sometimes we have these splits.
Yeah, we're locked like week 6.
Exactly, and then they don't play for a whole lot.
Oh,
Cats
here
come
come
in
the
the
Cats.
zone.
This very well could be the final fight. Upset just going to hit onto the tower. They focus. They look for the disengage. Vizichachi has been locked up. He will cut through a lot of damage. Engage comes in from Vander. Upset has been locked up, but he leaps right back out. Nuke Duck throws up the wall. He says, "You're not getting to my 80 carry that easy." Now pulling back. Vander is in trouble. He will get stunned. Will fall away, but they're going to break the tower anyway. It is the 2-for-0. G2 get the fight, but Schalke get the tower.
Oh, Perkz trying to stop them from getting in here while the rest of the team are killing super minions. It's a 3v5 at the moment.
Have to be careful. Perkz is going forward. Wants a bit more. Static shift proc, very big for the team, but they can't find the engage opportunity. Wonder with the TP almost up and available.
Elder Drake, not alive. Baron, not alive. So while G2 got 2 kills, nothing on the map they can actually kill. So they will end up just having to stall a little bit longer. Getting to the point where selling them boots might be a thing for the carries. Get even more damage. We've already seen it on Upset. He knows it. No one is actually hitting him, so he doesn't need boots.
Got the Phantom Dancer. He wants to be faster, Deficio.
See the fight from before here. Chachi and Schalke, they know that they need to get the turret first of all, and that actually buys a bit of time for G2 to get enough damage down on Vizichachi specifically. And this time, it's not the Alistar they focus, it is the Maokai. He dies. And of course, because Schalke are split between hitting turret and then hitting champions, they can't win the fight, and G2, they managed to secure a small win for themselves. Baron up in about a minute's time.
And you can see Hjarnen's still a threat when it comes to dishing out damage, to being a threat in the late game despite not going for the crit build. 5k damage in the fight. If he is allowed to free hit, he shreds through the tank line of Schalke. Interesting, has opted for the reduced healing, wants to shut down the Maokai in these fights, wants to shut down Upset. Lord Dominic's on the opposite side. Upset knows his job. If he gets a free hit the tank line, he needs them to die, and he needs them to die quickly.
And for Schalke next week, we already talked about the Fnatic game. The other opponent is H2K. They're down the bottom of the standings. Definitely a team Schalke can beat. So
and those are the games that matter the most, Deficio, because not only are you putting yourself one up, you're putting the competition one down. It's basically 2 wins when it comes to contesting the playoffs.
What happens here, Vander? That's an early ult, so now Vander for next fight. He's not going to have it if anything happens instantly, but again, the reason I highlight the H2K game and the Fnatic game is because if Schalke get this win here against G2, even if they lose to Fnatic, which is very realistic, as long as they didn't beat H2K, they will sit on 8 wins, which should be enough to at least give them a tiebreaker for that playoff spot. So suddenly this schedule where you had G2 and Fnatic in the remaining 4 games doesn't look that bad, because right now you are ahead against G2. You've been doing a lot of good things, but they still got to be able to close the game, and that's been the problem for Schalke all split long.
Right off to the side. Not going to find the Rupture. One Rupture connects on Upset. It could be the game right there. Perkz still trying to poke down. Not quite as effective as it once was early in the game. And Pride continues to try to find these flanks. Looks to take down Perkz. Perkz not nearly as scared as he was before. He gets the range to auto-attack freely. He will kill Pride quite quickly. G2 pulling back, though. You can see Schalke know that they're the stronger team as they force them back. They get the mid lane pressure, they set up the Sun Disc, and now they're going to look to control the jungle. This is where Pride is in his element. He stealths up, he finds another flank. Could very well be the win. They're going to immediately try to burn through it. Blue Trinket has spotted them out. They have the Azir, they have the Tristana. Vander maybe the Sacrificial Lamb. The ult is up in time. Jankos, where's he going to go? They're backing off. Schalke instead are going to look for the fight. They may just lose Vander here. Could that be the throw? Upset is not hitting. Nuke Duck, the team is split. Decision making was not together on that one. G2 find a small advantage.
Yeah, I don't think Vander had time to actually move with the team because they all jumped over the wall. No flash on his side, so he couldn't get away, and G2, that's now suddenly 5 members alive on their side against only 4 on Schalke. Now all the inhibs have respawned. There's a big wave bot lane that will kill an inhib if all of G2 stay around the Baron.
And Schalke know it. They're sticking around with 4 members. They know G2 can't afford to commit all 5. They're not scared.
Perkz is actually recalling instead of just walking over and killing the wave and then going back to base after. Starting the Baron to try and force G2 to stay around while the minions will do all the work. Perkz now realizes and kills the minions.
Jankos with no ultimate yet, so we can't threaten Nuke Duck there. Upset still continuing to hit, slowly chipping away at the Baron. Second Elder is up and alive.
And package is here. Perkz is on his way with the package here. If a fight breaks out.
Nuke Duck poking. It's going to get hit. The Chain CC comes in, but he has the cleanse. Pulls back. A brief opportunity. Vizicachi wants to go and wants to keep the fight going, but Hjarnan is not the one that they've hit. In goes Perks. He's looking for a time. He's looking for a chance. Wonder is going to get taken down. That's the shutdown. Vizicachi free hitting into the middle of the team. Nuke Duck now in the middle of everything. Jankos could be next. Upset. Not going to find the reset on the jump. They have to pull back.
I was hoping.
If Vizicachi's going to live. And the Baron now set in the sights. Jankos can steal, but he has no flash. He has no health. He has the Warmogs to heal up, but it's just a matter of time.
And it's almost too risky for him to try, because if he dies, then suddenly the base
G2 are doing the same trade again. They're trying to get Elder.
I don't think they can kill in time, can they?
Upset's on the way. They can't give second Elder
Perks
to
is not
Schalke.
there. Perks went up towards the Baron instead of being with the team to provide more damage.
If Pride steals this, Schalke win the game. Absolutely,
they can just fight
too
him.
strong. They don't even see him. He's going to throw it out. He wants to go over the wall. It's low. Jankos does secure it. That is a hope. That is a chance. But Vander goes in. The team is split. Hjarnan is immediately going to get cut through. Goodbye to you, sir. Not enough time left for G2.
But G2 right there, they're split up again. Perks went towards the Baron while the other three members went to Elder Drake. So it took them forever to kill it. And all of Schalke just walked down and took them down. They're going straight for the base.
This is exactly what they wanted. They're pushing in. They can end right here. Perks is almost out of mana. Would even have to block all of the auto attacks in the world. Wonder, the last stand comes in. Schalke are looking for the victory lap here. Sights set on playoffs. Will this be their win? Will they deny G2 their bye? Will they deny them their way into the semifinals? It is time to see. Wonder is getting taken down. They are cutting through him. Upset is uncontested. They have the Baron minion. Deficio. Schalke keep the playoff dream alive.
2-0 week for Schalke. They take down G2 Esports. They now enter week 9 tied for 5th place. They can still decide this on their own. It took them 8 weeks to get to this point. It took them 8 weeks to play 2 games where in the late game they could rely on their carries, Upset and Nuke Dog. No mistakes from them. Always dishing out a ton of damage on their side.
And every single fight, every single pick, every single moment from 30 minutes on was so tense, Deficio. Literally all
Just
it took
so
was,
much on the line.
Was one carry to die, and the game could have ended for either team. And Schalke continued to find the small advantages, continued to find the fights. The man on your screen now, Pride, a huge part of that. We were playing League of Legends, he was playing Splinter Cell. This man was sneaking his way into the back line, making his presence known. We thought it would be so hard for him to do anything in the late game, but between him and Vizicachi, they made these fights look easy.
And I gotta turn it over to G2 then. Out of the last 5 games, just when we start playing for these crucial playoff spots, they have now lost 4 out of 5. This is a team who's fallen apart completely. They can't play the late game. They can't play the early game. There were so many split decisions this game. Just the last one. 3 guys to Elder Drake, 1 guy sightseeing around Baron, and suddenly they get collapsed on at the Elder Drake because they can't take it down in time. I'm sure there's a reason for all of it.
I just don't understand the trade, man. I mean, I get it if you get second Elder, and I get that you want to deny it to Schalke, but you have to contest that Baron, man. You can't defend against that comp. You don't have the wave clear to stop those minions.
At least if you go for Elder Drake, have both your carries there. Late game carries, 6 items, spend 50 minutes farming. You need them there to kill that Elder Drake. Otherwise, you're not going to get it in time. But there were, of course, other things like that big engage from Perks, where he didn't see enough members of Schalke. He thought he could be the hero. He jumps and he dies. That's the first Baron for Schalke. That was the big turning point in this game in favor of Schalke, and they didn't let go. The carries performed in the fights. Pride found openings for himself, and Chachi on this Maokai get to the late game, and he can add a ton of value.
It was so good. These engages were so clean coming in from him. Well, for more on Schalke's win, let's head over to Pyra and hear for their mid laner.
Thank you very much, Dracos. I'm joined by Nuke Duck, and man, what a walloping game that was back and forth. The fans are still lit up right now here in the studio. Nuke Duck, at what point in that game did you realize, holy shit, we're going to beat G2?
I think already, like, starting from, like, draft, it was, like, so comfortable for us, and, I mean, we just won every team fight, so it felt like we were in control, like, pretty much the whole game.
It certainly seemed like you guys had tightened things up. This week, you finally got yourselves a 2-0 after such a rough split. What was different coming into this week that you guys hadn't shown all split so far?
I think we had the mindset shift because we had a sports psychologist coming in, and I think he helps us a lot. And also the compositions we play are better, I think, too. So yeah, those two things, yeah.
So things are definitely tightening up for you guys. Now, you are still alive for the playoff race right now. You're in that 5th place tie. What specifically does Schalke 04 have to do to make sure you're going to secure it?
I mean, we are going to have to go 2-0 next week to secure it, I think. But I think if we keep playing as we play, I think we can take down Fnatic as well. So, and HK, yeah. Wow, you can take it on both those teams. You're not even worried about either of them at this point. I mean, I'm at least sure that we can win if we play our best. I'm looking forward to it. Are we going to see any extra special Nuke Duck carry champions, or are you going to stick to the standard meta stuff? We might. Okay, I was trying to sneak that one out of you, trying to sneak it out of you. All right, so now you are a huge veteran on this team. Like, you've been around for so long, going all the way back to Season 3 and even beyond. Now, Schalke as an organization, it really seems to have grown a lot over this split. What, in your eyes, has been like the biggest change for you guys, besides that sports psychologist? How far have things gone for you? I think we just had some bad weeks of practice where there was multiple different reasons. Maybe people didn't give that 110% that we need from everyone to be able to compete here. So I think now everyone just tries a little bit harder, and I think that's the difference. So just a little bit gets you guys over the edge. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the next weeks. Once again, congratulations on that 2-0 week. Thank you. All right, now we're going to go ahead and send it off to the post-game lobby. Shock Sveti, take it away.
Welcome everybody to the LCS post-game lobby after week 8 of the spring split. I'm Eva Shogsbortre here now with Andrew, Vedius Day. We are waiting for Dracos and the Fisho to come over after that cracker of a game. Schalke versus G2. Vedius, besides from the awesome implications that it has or could have on the standings, this was a fantastically entertaining game to watch from both sides.
It was very back and forth. I was expecting another battle of the mid laners, and the mid laners certainly had an impact, that was for sure. I love Nuke Duck's play, thought his positioning was great. His Azir, another great performance from him, but Perks, definitely a couple of question marks coming from me coming into week 9.
Yes, I mean, the Perks movement there in the middle of the game where he just Valkyried in and just, as said by the Fisho, looking at the vision after he didn't see that everyone was there. And that sometimes that makes it excusable for me because we often talk about X Factor and those moments, and more often than not it works out for Perks. Unfortunately for him, not this time. But on the other side then, we have to give credit to Schalke for then taking it to them and not losing their cool in the important moments that came after that as well. That Elder Dragon, that first one, and that second Baron.
Yeah, but also on top of that, Pride, his performance on the Kha'Zix as well. They wouldn't have been in those positions if he wasn't constantly looking for picks, going into the enemy jungle, utilizing the ultimate with the Kha'Zix. I felt like that he really came into his comfort zone, and while some of the team fights were not as gung-ho as I would have liked to see from Schalke, it felt like that once we reached that late game point and when they knew they had the Baron, we saw the confidence that we've been wanting to see, and it is a 2-0 week for Schalke, which many fans are happy to see.
A 2-0 week just in time for Schalke. Let's take a look at the standings, because here they redeem themselves a little bit. They at least keep themselves in the race and are now in 5th place at 7 and 9. G2 Esports is still in that race for the 2nd place and that second quarterfinal bye. But for now, the way it feels for G2 Esports is likely that it will be just a bit under that top 2 for them if they keep playing the way they are.
Yeah, I mean, for G2, things are not looking very optimistic. Next week is going to be a huge deal for them, but I'm really looking at that 5th through 10th place spot.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
I didn't realize you're on camera yet.
Hello.
We're here to cast League of Legends.
No, you just cast League of Legends. Now you're going to talk about it a bit more. Yeah, welcome, Dracos and the Fisher. We're just wrapping up the standings here. Things that are locked is Fnatic is locked and is also locked in 1st place. Splice is locked for playoffs, and those are the only 2 teams that are locked for playoffs so far. That 2nd place battle is very interesting. That tie for the 5th place, or what's going to be then 5 and 6, is very interesting. And as I say every week, we're still none the wiser. So luckily you guys can tell me what's up.
I mean, I have no answers, man. This is such a mess. I mean, like, all of these teams, we're always convinced this team is good, this team is coming up, this team is going to be great. And then they fall apart, and then we're like, okay, they're not good anymore. And then they come back the next week, and they're great again. So it's so hard.
Like Rockets.
Like
Yes. Before we move on, congratulations to the Fisho for getting the only Schalke G2 prediction right from all the casters.
One other.
Oh, there was one other?
One other
Trevor,
Schalke
I
prediction.
believe,
Trevor
also
also
swapped
swapped
it
it around.
to Schalke. Yes.
Congratulations on that. But for the playoffs, everyone is still in contention to make it. And now we're going to move over to a new segment, which is Ping the Lobby. So we're going to be covering a lot here on PGL, the playoff race, the questions to our experts. So stick around for that. But first, we're going to start off with Ping the Lobby. Let's see what you guys sent in over Twitter. Our first tweet comes from @JamesLFC99. Do you think that Misfits will overcome this bad week and make playoffs? Oof. Yeah, Misfits currently hanging in that 5th place, 0-2 week. And I got to say, it felt... Even that they've dropped games before, and in the split we've had question marks, this one felt really bad. And I can't quite put my finger on it, so maybe you guys have more insight.
If they play like today, no, they will not make playoffs.
Agreed.
They have a week to fix this. They are playing, I believe it's Unicorn to Love and H2K as the remaining 2 games. So it is, in my opinion, still in their hands. I think a 2-0 week next week is realistic. But the thing is, a little bit like with G2, it feels like no matter which playstyle they pick at the moment, it doesn't work. The late game, no, then there's some bad team fighting, and then if it's the early game, they don't execute around the Baron play. So they have to lock down one style coming into week 9 that needs to work for them, because they don't need to play 10 different styles. Literally just need one thing that can actually work.
I mean, for me, I agree about what they need to do, but I just don't know if we're going to see it. Because I think we've said this, one more week and Misfits are going to figure their stuff out, and they look good, and they take a game off like Fnatic, for instance. We're like, ooh, they're going to be a great team. And then it falls apart again. And it is a crazy season, but I don't see Misfits recovering in time, which is a big shame because I think they would be massive in best of 5s. They'd be such a good team, but the rate at which they've been developing has been so slow.
When you say they won't recover, do you see them falling out of playoffs?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I think it's hard for me to say 100%, but yeah, I can see a world where Misfits fall out of playoffs.
I want to throw a slight spanner in the works and say that, like, as a team, yes, sure, there are many question marks around how well they will perform. I'm actually looking directly at Hansama and his performance. It's something I'm going to look quite closely at on their games this weekend, but I feel like he has not been playing at the caliber that we saw very early on in the split. He's been getting caught out much more often than we usually expect from him. His teamfight positioning has not been as good as it usually is, and I feel like he is an individual. Either he's losing confidence, maybe the synergy with the team isn't there, but right now he is an individual, is someone that I would often put a lot of trust in, and isn't really meeting the expectations that I had coming into the split.
This could be one of the reasons. Obviously, we don't know what else is going on there in the team environment. We do have to move on. I just tried to want to throw this out there. Maybe it's time for us to readjust our expectations.
Perhaps.
They were on a high at Worlds. We thought they were going to come in here in the spring split and do great, even with the changed lineup. Maybe we'll have to reset our expectations. I think we can follow this as the weeks go on. We are going to move on to the next question from @1159Thor. Hi, the Fisho. It's
Hi.
always the Fisho.
Hello.
What are you mostly looking forward to in the Royal Arena in København?
Danish fans.
Danish fan.
Definitely the thing I look forward to the most. I hope to see completely sold out arena, everyone waving sausages everywhere, and then cheering for, of course, all the games and just being awesome Danish fans.
Fisher, that's so interesting. Where might they find tickets if they were interested in
On the
coming?
internet. Could go into eu.esports.com.
What is that?
I'm just saying that's where you can find tickets.
We're on the internet right now?
I believe we're on the
Oh,
internet.
damn.
And if people
No.
go
Did I say
to
the internet? Yeah.
the eu.lolesports.com.
That's what I said right
a place
after, but you
on
guys
the
were
internet,
laughing.
You will
Also-
find tickets
Also,
for
to
the final.
entice players, people even more, Fnatic is definitely going to be there, be it Saturday
true.
during the third place match
true.
or be it Sunday, since they have locked first place spots, so they're going semifinals and beyond, and hence they'll be in the third place match or in the final. So, yay.
So there will be Danes at Copenhagen.
There will be Danes at Copenhagen.
I will also be there.
Wow.
Will you?
Alrighty.
Maybe not.
Right now, we've got a clear top 4 in the EU LCS, but behind them, it is still wide open. And I'm actually going to pick your brain and give you a chance to talk about your predictions. Which team do you think for sure is going to make playoffs, be it in 5th or be it in 6th place, and why? And you only each get 1 minute to talk about it. I have an attribute. I have a bell. So, Verius, let's start with you. And I got that Roccat was your pick
Yes.
to make it to playoffs. Tell me why. 60 seconds. 3, 2, 1.
Now, the reason why... Oh, the reason why I believe Roccat is going to make playoffs is because throughout the regular season, I have said that this lineup is full of talent. All they lack is experience. Coming into the end part of the season, I feel like they're gaining that experience in spades. They're developing their ability to play through the strong lanes of bot and relying on Memento to set up that early success. It is the combination of bot lane and jungle that I think is going to bring this team up towards the upper echelons and make their way into playoffs over the other teams that are very close to them in the standings. I looked at their schedule next week. I think it's very realistic. Roccat is my team to make it into playoffs.
You still have 15 seconds.
Roccat is great. Deficio was wrong. They beat Vitality. Make sure everyone remembers that.
All right, we're going to cut it off early, and that's how we did it just in time. The bell does work. It turns out I just didn't know how to...
it's complicated.
It doesn't work like this. You do have to put it on the surface. All right, fantastic. I think those were some very convincing arguments. Do we have any quick rebuttals or...
Any rebuttals?
Or anything vastly ridiculous?
I mean, it's hard because I had a plan for a team, and now I have to change my plan because my team did not play great today, and I've lost a little bit of face, so it's hard for me to criticize your very eloquent
Let's hear
argument.
it then, because Dracos, your choice for that last playoff spot is H2K. You have 60 seconds. 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, I was originally going to swap to Giants, but you know what? H2K, guys. H2K. Let's talk about this team. If they make it to late game, they are absolutely insane. Now, the thing you have to understand is that Sheriff is a clutch player, and when their back is against the wall, Sheriff always shows up, always does good stuff. Apparently, we're on this. Why do you
just look straight ahead?
I'm looking straight ahead. You're fine.
You've got 30 seconds.
Deficio.
He's looking at that.
Give me 10 more seconds, please. Okay. Here's the deal, guys. H2K have clutch players. Yes, they fall behind in the early game, but I'm not worried about it because Smitty J is going to get the opportunity to play a tank. He's going to find a perfect engage. He's going to bring it back. Sheriff is going to carry the team home. Selfie has been developing as a mid laner and looks quite good, and the Shook effect will be in full effect for this lineup.
You all don't use up all your time. You also have time left. I think it's really nice that you pivoted from H2K because you actually wanted to defend Giants.
I did want to defend Giants, but you know what?
Might have been better for this one.
You know what? There is still a chance. Actually, I think Sheriff's insane. So I do think that there is a chance. I think Giants was the safer bet, so I thought I'd save myself some face and go with them, but there is the possibility for H2K.
I think seeing the circumstances that your co-host here tried to completely derail you.
I tried to help him by telling him which camera to look at. That camera is your camera.
The one with the red light on. That's the indicator.
We have people here filming for something else, so I thought that was their camera.
I just tried to help you, man.
But to close this off for H2K, is there anyone else that agrees that they are going to make it in playoffs?
No.
I know this was a popular opinion a couple of weeks ago, and I think it has more to do with the teams around them performing than it does about H2K.
It's interesting
losing the plot.
You say that because there was a podcast recently where I heard some analysts discuss the prospects of H2K make it into playoffs. I believe you were there, Dracos. Can you remember the other analyst that was there with you?
Fun fact, we actually picked unicorns and not H2K.
I was convinced you picked H2K.
No,
you're mistaken. Broxa picked H2K yesterday. But nobody helped him. He made that list all on his own, I swear.
I mean, I still think H2K can do it. The problem for them is just losing today was kind of expected against Splice, and they have to 2-0 next week, which I think it is actually realistic for them to do. It's just when you fell this far down in terms of wins from the start of the season, same for Unicorns, that's what really hurts you now. It's actually not that you're weaker than the teams above you. It's just you lost so many games at the start.
Yeah. Finally, it's Deficio's turn. And as for context, we were going to do this the whole day, and something's happened today. And I think Verius came out okay because Roccat did win. You had a bit of a worse day.
I have Sheriff.
And Deficio, actually, before spoiling it, it came out the best because he picked Schalke even before this day. So, 60 seconds. Why is Schalke the greatest team on earth? Why will they make playoffs? 3, 2, 1, go.
2 seconds. We already watched the G2 game. Done. They're the best.
I think
I can try it.
I just love that you don't actually have an argument. You're like,
wait, calm down. I'm trying to be funny here, and now you guys are ruining it.
Someone should take this bell away.
Can I get the bell again?
Yeah.
Can you give me the bell?
Okay.
We take turns with the bell?
All right.
Give me 58 seconds, because I spent 2 now.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, first of all, the Schalke carries have now realized how to play late-game team fights. So Upset and Nukedog, whenever they get to that point, can actually win games for the team. That is very, very important. Pride, when he can finally get to play things like Kha'Zix, looks super, super good, like the game we just saw today. So I think Schalke have actually finally, towards the end of the split, realized how to play late game. They don't have to win early. They don't have to be creative like I actually thought they would need to do to actually pick this up. Now they've also gotten a 2-0 week, momentum, confidence. They believe again. I talked to this team before the week. They're like, we're done. We're not in playoffs. But now it's well, of course we're going to be in playoffs because we can beat anyone in Europe. So I think the Schalke lineup, because they can actually play late game now, because they actually believe in themselves, they're good enough and have the players to be a top 6 team.
You also had some seconds left, but I thought for good form it was nicer to
Yeah, but
end
I
it
mean,
on a
everyone
big-
else left 10 seconds
Fantastic.
too.
No,
So
and
I
I
did the
think
same.
you gave the most compelling arguments, but it's
To be fair,
also
it's
because
easier. They
just
got a
played
2-0
very well.
lead.
Yeah, exactly. So it seems very realistic. Fantastic standpoints. We're going to have to follow that all up. We do need to move on to our next segment, which is the Acer Big Plays, because with Week 8 completed, let's take a look at the LCS Big Plays you guys sent in on Twitter, brought to you by Acer Predator. First up, H2K was 8.5k gold behind G2 in their matchup yesterday, but the underdogs pulled off a big team fight win in the top lane, starting the comeback that led to a crucial victory.
Perks doesn't have the ultimate yet, but it's on its way. Promisq eats up his mid laner, tries to get the Emperor to safety, the bodyguard.
Oh, the cats!
Catfish, here come the cats, and it catches out too. Promisq with the cleanse, Shook suppresses Perks, they can't quite take him down. Eventually they get the shutdown, and look at Sheriff, he's still alive on the backline. Sheriff is doing absolute work, he's gunning down some outlaws. There's 2, they're looking for more. H2K have turned this one around.
Really? I can't believe it. That's the exact same thing that happened when they played against Fnatic, and they did this thing when they drafted full late game and fell super far behind.
We need to fight.
I have it now,
Syndra, no flash.
Can you block for me? Can you block for me?
Yeah, look there. Flash, look
Syndra.
She's gone, she's gone, she's gone.
I'm getting tanks, getting front line.
Yeah. Yes, hit.
We win.
Varus no flash, guys. Varus no flash. He's
Fight.
No flash, no flash.
Nice.
Can we do Nash? Yeah, I think we could. I'm really low though.
You want to know why I picked H2K? There it is, Sheriff, baby. We said it on the desk. I'll say it again. Pew, 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 pew. This guy
Sheriff.
is so good.
He is fantastic AD carry, and another player that's been a very consistent carry for his team this split is Splice's Cobby. In today's win against H2K, he took control in the team fights, getting 2 triple kills in the process.
Already down to half. There's going to be a teleport coming in for Odoamne. Splice trying to collapse. They're going to be able to get there in time. This Baron is certainly going to go down early. Smite right now. Xerxes come in. It's going to be finished off by Sheriff, but the fight is on. Xerxes is a big Scorpion in here, but Cobby has already taken out his opposite number. Promisq soon to fall. That's a double kill for the Tristana. Smitty J going to be left for dead, and so is Shook. Pushed back by the Emperor's Divide. Splice will leave none alive. Except for Smitty J, excuse me, Selfie, he's going to live, but that's just about it, and a triple kill for the Tristana.
Guys,
Okay, they flash down. Yeah, sure.
IoT? Careful now, Kobe.
I'm okay.
Hit towers, please, guys. Towers.
I don't have mana. I can only speed.
I can flash out.
Tower guy is low.
I need help.
They're fine.
Tower.
You go.
GG guys.
Don't worry, bro.
Perfect.
So
Good job,
nice, guys. So nice.
Holy fuck, what the ban on
I
power
was
play.
against Splice at first, but I've officially joined the hype train. These guys are great to watch. I'm excited.
Too late. No more tickets.
Someone who was for a long time already on the Schalke hype train, that was the Fish-O, and today finally they pulled off a 2-0 week after a tough game against G2. It all started with their great team fight 28 minutes into the game, so let's take a look.
Vander might have to sacrifice himself every fight when he jumps in because Cho'Gath can feast and kill him through the ult.
Perks looking for the single point.
Way too aggressive.
Right there. Goodbye. The sole remaining member of the OG G2 lineup may have just given up everything because Vizichachi is there. Upset is ready for the reset. He's going to free hit onto the remaining members. They're going to find the engage. Schalke, immediate turnaround, the double. Bring it home. One more for Nuke Duck, the Baron in the sights of Schalke.
It was the beginning of the end for G2 when Perks jumped in, and well, Schalke turned it around and ran with it. Their first 2-0 week. Now we're going to close out the regular season with the final week, week 9, starting next Friday with Schalke versus H2K, and also Vitality plays Splice on day 1 and on day 2 Vitality. So that's going to be really interesting, and it's crucial for that second place as well as all the other playoff spots.
So every game,
Every single game is
Every game
important.
matters.
There you go.
the ones I am most excited for is Misfits versus Roccat, because I think that will be a big determining factor in who secures 5th. And I think that Splice versus Vitality is probably going to be the most hype one that's probably got the most competition involved.
Schalke versus H2K, because I can prove that I picked right and the Fish-O picked wrong.
Oh, that's a good
important.
chow.
Oh,
Yeah, really good. We're going to see who's correct.
I kind of want both teams in playoffs. Who do I pick?
Who do we pick? Well, Misfits also very interesting matchups. They'll have be playing Unicorns of Love on the second day as well to get back into playoffs. So that is also a team we have our eye on, and just a lot of big matchups across the board. Every game matters. Now, don't forget that the LCS is about to start, literally about to start, with their Week 8 between Clutch Gaming versus Echo Fox. And if you didn't catch all of the action from the LCS tonight, you can watch them in a rebroadcast after the show in North America. That was all from us here in Week 8 and the post-game lobby. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you guys very much for joining, and we'll see you back next Friday for a deciding week in the LCS Spring Split. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Oh, the flash, the taunt, Joko, flag and drag, and the auto attacks. Wasn't expecting that. Caught up in the pit. That's a lot of damage, burning back and forth. Little blah blues all over the map right now as Mickey X is going to be the first one to fall. Alfari should be the second.